Hello, hi. Welcome to Man with a Mentor. I am your host, the man, Matt Barnard, and you may be wondering what a show called Man with a Mentor entails. Well, basically, it's about careers, how we had the initial inkling of that's what I want to go into, to all the successes and potholes and failures and problems along the way until you got where you wanted to be. I always say careers are like a roller coaster. So you better buckle up, right? Yeah, because there's dips and valleys and you got to weather them. Am I right?
I agree.
All right. My guest agrees, and he is super awesome. He is John-michaellander. And I'm just going to let you introduce like your amazing success in the world of sports and then tell what you're doing now.
Oh, okay. Do we want to start from how I got into the sport, or
No, just say
okay,
that you were.
I'm a former Olympic diving contender, and I unfortunately never made the Olympic team due to what happened to myself in high school.
Right.
And I continued in college, and set some records there as well. I won the Norway Cup and the Denmark Cup at 16.
Oh, right. Oh,
so
wow.
that was my claim to fame in the sport. So I got a scholarship to the University of California, Irvine.
Oh, right.
And so that set myself up as a diver, but some things happened along the way that impeded me from going any further.
Right.
And so then I started acting as an actor.
All right.
And went through Hollywood and New York and did films and soap operas and stuff like that.
Oh, gotcha.
And ended up in Boston where I did a film, and I stayed a couple of years and became an assistant coach at Harvard. And then I don't know if you need to know, I became a teacher, and I taught for 7 years at Dayton Public Schools at the School of the Arts at Stivers.
Oh, right.
Taught for 7 years, and then
What subject? Let's get.
I taught English, high school
gotcha.
English. And that was kind of exciting, and had some wonderful times then. And some things happened, which we could probably talk about, which opened my eyes. And then I started to discover more about myself.
Right.
And which led me to become a certified coach and trainer for the Self-Talk Institute.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. We're gonna get into like all the nitty gritty of that, but first, like, it always like piques my interest as to how people developed a passion for what they like branched into.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm wondering if you can explain, like, did you have a pool? Did you like jump in a pool and then thought, wait, I want to learn how to do that? Or you were just a jumper, or how did it all kind of come about? And what age?
Well, I actually, when I was younger, I used to like do somersaults and flips all over the place on the couch in the living room, which my mother hated. And I would be just full of energy, run through the house and push through doors. And I've broken many windows and stormed doors in my life.
Oh, right.
And so my parents kept trying to think, what are we going to do with him? We got to put him somewhere to use this energy. And we first went to the YMCA, of course. And so I started taking swimming lessons. And it just was like I adapted to the water. It was so natural. And then we moved to Waynesville, that small town, the sauerkraut capital of the world. And they opened a pool down there called the 3 Century Swim Pool. And we would go, and my mother would take us and drop us off and leave us there. And I just started doing flips off the board, and there was a lifeguard who was also a college student, said, why don't you try it this way? Why don't you try it this way? So he started coaching me a little bit.
Oh, gotcha.
And things happened really quickly. And then that day he said, okay, you need to go see this coach. I'm going to send you to that coach. And so they took me, my parents, that afternoon, and I worked with them for a couple hours, and we went to our first meet, and I took second, and that was how it all started.
Oh, my
And I was like
gosh.
12 years old.
Oh, wow. That's crazy.
It was
And
crazy.
then you were like literally a contender
Yes.
for the Olympics. Like, how did you go from being 12 to 14? Like, tell me like the practice regimen. Was it hours and hours a day? Like,
Well,
they say figure skaters, they're up at
right.
4 a.m. and they're practicing on the ring from 5 to 7:30 and then going to school and all that. Like, was that your obsession?
Well, from 12 to 14, it was more like just 2 hours a day.
Right.
And that was as much as I could get in.
Right.
And when I turned 14, I went to the Junior Olympics in Lincoln, Nebraska, and took 8th, which was the first time that kind of put me on the radar for future things.
All right.
And from then, it became 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours in the afternoon, plus weight workouts. And we would do this meditative visualization thing for like an hour.
Right.
So my life became in the pool.
Right. Okay, so now we're gonna like dig into some of the, I don't want to say bad stuff. I don't know what to call it, but I'm gonna say this because I have like a little quote for this part of the show. What do you do when you go from a mentor to the mentor becomes a tormentor?
That means so much to me. I'm not quite sure how to answer that because I hope I never became a tormentor.
No, I mean like the people that you started to like entrust with your life, basically, because it became your like world and everything.
Right.
Like, how do you, kind of suss out like something isn't right here? Do you realize it like too late? Do you like who's enabling the whole situation? Right. Like, because it's not you're a kid,
right?
But the people above, the people that are responsible, also don't seem to understand it or know what's going on, right?
Definitely. And I think that's amazing, and that sets everything up for me very clearly and easily. When I took 8th at the Junior Olympics, there was an article in the newspaper, of course, our local newspaper, and a lawyer read it. And when the lawyer read it, he contacted my mother.
Right, okay.
And he and my mother started meeting over a couple of months. It wasn't very fast, it was kind of slow. And he basically told my mother that he had a group of professional friends that could help me with my dream to the Olympics and to get a college scholarship. Right. And basically he groomed my mother, that ugly word that people don't want to use nowadays. But he groomed her into believing that this was the only way that this could happen. And in the return, he said that all the professionals, whoever I was working or met, they would in turn give back to my family. So if there were doctors, they would give doctor medication or exams, all free, as long as I met these requirements. And so my mom thought, this is pretty good. Right. So she signed a contract.
Oh.
Okay. And he basically did say that there is a situation that if you do not get me to the right place at the right time and ready for the event, so that's what I call them, then they would sue my parents and sue for all the money and all the services that were rendered to them ahead of time, which would have bankrupted them, of course.
Right.
And
was that a red flag? I mean, looking back,
well, you
and your parents should have never.
Well, now when you look back, you say, I shouldn't have done that. And I'm sure my parents did too. But at the time, he was so good at what he was doing and litigating everything that she really believed that this was the best for me.
Gotcha.
And she said, okay. And then she basically handed me over to him. And then the next couple of months, I would meet with him privately. And we would go to dinner, or we would go see a show or something like that. And he basically was just telling me how incredible it would be and how talented I was and everything I needed to hear, of course.
Right.
And that since I took 8th at the Junior Olympics, just think in 4 years you're going to make the Olympic team.
Right.
So why don't we just focus on that? And I have all these people that want to help you because they believe in you as well.
Right.
And so I said, okay. And he said, there's 3 things you have to do for me. You have to keep your grades up. You have to do good in competitions. Right. And you have to make sure that the professionals are happy. So if anybody gets unhappy and lets me know, we might have a problem.
Right.
So I signed a contract.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
I didn't know there were
they're not. He's a lawyer, and this is how he dealt with it. And within the contract, there was a stipulation that I was not allowed to tell anyone.
Oh,
and because they were only interested in me, they weren't interested in any of the other divers on the team. So he didn't want me to let anyone else know that I was getting all this free stuff. So they paid for my training time, my pool time, my swimsuits, any competitions were all taken care of. And my younger sister had a horrible sledding accident, which had to have reconstructive surgery on her chin. everything was taken care of.
Oh.
So
Right,
that's how it happened and started. And so this was a group of people based out of Columbus.
Right.
And they were 6-figure professional people.
Right.
And they were lawyers and judges and police officers and doctors and therapists and all this.
Right.
And they would focus on 6 boys a year. We were called the Ponies. Unless you'd been there a couple of years, then you were a cult.
Does this sound ridiculous to you?
It's like crazy.
Yeah.
So
they didn't think this was crazy. They said these words and didn't.
Yeah, we were called Ponies. Okay, bring in the Ponies.
All right. Yeah, these people need a kick somewhere.
Yes.
Or a punch.
But they were
right in the neck. Right in the throat. Right there.
They protected each other.
Right.
I know one of the boys crashed a Mercedes once, but in the side of on the passenger side there was a little marijuana, and so the courts bring it in, and the lawyer becomes his lawyer, goes in, and they have a discussion, and the next thing we know, the whole case is thrown out as long as the professionals donated a certain amount of money to the police department.
There's certain people who feel like they want to get to the top of whatever field, sport, study, corporation, career, and if they have to suffer through some weirdness or uncomfortable or shadiness or whatever to get there, they're okay with it because the end result was what they wanted.
Right.
So, how do you reconcile people that feel that way against people who feel like you should never have to go through the fire,
right,
to get the brass ring, or you should be able to achieve the success that you would like without being abused or mistreated or going down a shady path yourself. So how do you do you think there's some people who feel that way and just will do whatever it takes, and no matter what it is?
Well, I can only speak for myself. I wish I could speak about everybody else, but I battled with that a lot, actually, when it was all happening. Because sometimes I think later on in my life, when I look back in retrospect, I think, what would have happened if I chose not to take this opportunity? Right. What would have happened? Would I have been happier? Would I have been that little kid that was flipping around all the time and exploring life and excitement? Or would something else come in and happen? It's the what if game. Right. And I also think that I like to think that if I did not go through these experiences, I would have been that kid still. Because my childhood was taken away. As soon as that first event happened, my normalcy was gone, because this became about something else now. Right. And I never understood. And so I started creating lies and beliefs just so that I could get through the day. Why was I chosen out of all the teammates? I was not the best diver at the time. Right. Why was I selected? And later on we find out, when we go back and we look at it, the lawyer had already approached the team, the people who ran the team, and said, look, we want to sponsor this kid, and we're willing to give donations towards the team to help them, move forward for, swimsuits or whatever we need, but we want to focus on him. They were like, oh, okay. So basically what he has done, and this is what I call the predatory grooming trifecta.
Right, yes.
Which is where he groomed the institution first to get their protection. Because if he has their protection, the organization is never going to let out that they have a predator on the line or anything like that, because that will ruin their brand, that will ruin their incomes, that will ruin all the sponsorships that's coming in. So once he had them in place, then he met with my mom and did groomed her basically and got her permission to come to me. If my mom never gave the permission and signed that contract, he would have never walked up to me.
Right.
They would have found somebody else. And then once that happened, then he came to me. And so what that do, all three of those are in that kind of alignment, which protects them. And they go undetected for years, as we've seen in the U.S. gymnastics.
Right.
With Dr. Nesser.
Can I ask, I don't want to date the situation, but, was this pre-social media, pre-cell phone?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, because the really shocking thing about like the ladies gymnasts and that whole debacle, and that it has to still be going on, not necessarily with them, but within sports, within universities, within institutions. And it really floors me when it's so easy to like put a camera phone in your bag and record all the bad behavior and be like, I got proof. Like, it just seems like who would risk doing such nefarious things in this world where it's quite easy to capture what people are saying and doing.
And I think that's one of the things we struggle with when people are explaining how these things happen.
Talk about like how you came out the other side. Did you eventually just like put your foot down? Did you find that you revealed too much and they kind of gave you the boot? Like what happened to where or did you just kind of put the whole kibosh on diving and thinking this has been tainted and I don't want anything more to do with it? Because some people, that's how they react. They just run and never do that again.
I think we all run. I think that's part of our survival method, because once, there's the moments of being frozen. And I know when the abuse started, my body would freeze. I couldn't move. And then afterwards I would run. It'd be crazy. But I did things that were really interesting. And I think other people in my situation would have done similar things. Is that there was one point where my 16th birthday, I was getting picked up. And I told my mother I wasn't going. And she says, no, you have to go. He came all the way out of here because, I lived on a farm out in the middle of nowhere.
Right.
And I said, no, I'm not going. And she said, why not? And I finally said, maybe this is what's going to help. I'm finally going to say something about this. It's been 2 years now. So I said, he touches me. And she said, where? And I said, here. And she looked at me and all of a sudden her face changed and she slaps me across the face. And she says, it's not nice to make up lies about people. He's an upstanding citizen in this community, and he's helping everybody. He's helping our family. He's helping you. It is your job to help him.
So tell me about your books. You have 2 books.
Yeah.
And tell me like the stories of is it your personal stories, or is it like from a person's point of view and you wrote about a fake person?
These are my stories.
Okay, gotcha.
But I did write them as fiction because at the time I wrote these, I was not ready to put my name in that situation.
Oh, right.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
And it also allowed me to be able to write a little bit freer instead of sitting there worrying about what people would think. So the first one, Surface Tension, is about my high school years.
Okay.
The 4 years of high school, winning the gold medal, and winning the Norway Cup and the Swedish Cup, and how I was able to compartmentalize certain things,
right.
and so that I could compete.
I do ask my guests not to use big words with me.
Oh, sorry. If I could say them.
Right. Yes, that's why I don't want you to use them, because if I try to repeat it, it will be bad. So what about the second book?
I'm sorry, I'm catching up. The second book is my first year at the university, where I was given a scholarship for academics and athletics, and it's about the whole experience of how I never got the professional help I needed and how I would repeat certain things. And it also talks about a grad student that started stalking me.
Oh.
Because when I went to the University of California, Irvine, I kind of was known. People knew who I was. And I offended this person somehow on the first day of moving into my dorm, and I didn't know it. And so he would start stalking me and leave notes at the practice, in my classrooms, on my desk. He knew my whole schedule.
Oh, my gosh.
And he eventually found me and left me in the woods.
Oh, my.
Yeah. Which I couldn't understand because I had gone through.
I feel like that is a great spot to say, to find out what really happened, you got to read the book. Am I right?
Yeah.
Let's not reveal everything.
No, I don't want to.
Right, because we want people to go out there and read the book and find it. Where is it available? Like
Amazon. It's the best place to get it.
Okay.
You can go to, Barnes & Nobles, but you'll have to order it.
Right.
Because it's,
Some people, like the last thing they really want to do is talk about their trauma. They want to just kind of like bury it and like move on and not bring it to light, but just deal with it in their own way and just keep it to themselves and move on. But that seems like that doesn't work. I'm just saying. So you're making like a career and a life out of highlighting this and how to prevent it, how to stop it, how to notice it, how to, you know, get into institutions and say like, this needs to be not happening.
Correct.
Right. So, like, is this going to be your life's work? Are you like, is this your passion now to try and eliminate this potential from happening across universities or schools or situations across the planet?
I think it's part of it. And the other part is to help people understand and realize that they could change their self-talk and change their lives.
Right.
You know, just because something bad happened to us, which we all go through some type of trauma as we go through this journey through life. And to be able not to allow ourselves to create these negative stories about ourselves, but to try to find the true essence of who we are and follow that purpose that we had when we came here. Right. And that's the most exciting part. And if it takes me telling my story to help people understand, then that's part of it. The other part was I was with the Army of Survivors on their board for 3 years, and we wrote the athletes' bylaws for the Olympics. We helped, many athletes who are very silent, because in athletics it's really hard, because if you are found out or if you've told somebody, you can have all this repercussion come back on you and you don't represent your country anymore.
Right.
So many of our athletes who have been abused, especially males, will never talk. Right. And then going through the fact that I tried to end my life because I never told anybody until later in my life. I also understand that there are many people who have committed suicide who are males. Right. If we were able to go back and talk to them, we would find out that they had been abused somehow, some way. And it's really easy to cover up male sexual abuse as initiation, hazing, and rite of passage. And we see that in the locker rooms all the time.
Right. Yeah. The vast majority of attention is on female victims. And I think that's just because less men come forward. I don't know if it's like a stigma or they feel demasculinized. That's not a word either.
No, I love that word.
I wasn't sure that was a word. See, it was a big word. Yeah. So, they just don't feel like they want the judgment that they went through this. And how could you be a man and go through this? Which is a ridiculous way to think.
And we still carry the belief that you can't sexually abuse a man unless they're willing.
Right, yeah.
And I think that was the shame that I carried with my life the whole time, is that I didn't want anyone to know, because did I allow this to happen? Because I questioned that a lot. Is this my fault? Did I cause this? Did I let this happen? And I held on to that for a long time. And and I want to make sure everybody understands that sexual abuse or any type of abuse of a child, it's not the child's fault.
Right, exactly. So I think like the general summation
shaking the table
of all this is that like be vigilant in finding a mentor, find the best person that's right for you, who's going to help you, but don't ever put yourself in a situation where you could be abused or victimized. Just like run for the hills.
I also want to share that people can reach me out on an Athlete Silence, which is a website, and I'm here in Dayton, so I'm happy to help and guide you to places. And it's also the fact that our life journey after this is over is forever trying to heal. And if you hear anybody that says, "Oh, I'm healed from that," I'd question that, because there are too many triggers every day that set us off. Right. And I think the biggest thing with men is actually recognizing and acknowledging that it happened. Right. If they can actually see that, then they can start the healing process.
Gotcha. And I don't know if you want to keep watching, but John-michaellander is going to teach me how to dive. So I brought all this stuff. So I have my flip-flops right here, and I have my suntan lotion.
Oh
So
my God.
that would be, we need that. And I have my little trunks. I won't wear Speedo. I don't want to put you through that, audience. And then I have my favorite towel right here.
Oh my God.
So we're ready to go. And I just want to say that is not a go. That is not going to happen. But
Go to the Kettering Rec Center.
the
Already.
world does not want to witness me in my trunks right now.
I think we'd go viral.
We go viral.
We would go
for all the
viral.
wrong reasons. But hey, maybe I'll have you back, and we'll actually talk
Definitely,
about
let's talk about
the technical aspects of diving and
Let's
how to
do it.
do it. Yeah,
Yeah, why not?
Episode 12, maybe coming up. All right, I appreciate you,
As
John.
long as we meet at the pool one day and have you dive for us.
Right. No, I'll try.
I think you could do it. I
Yeah,
know you could.
I might be title episode belly flop.
Wow.
I don't know if I would be good, but I'm willing to try. All right. I want to thank my guest, John-michaellander, and we're going to list all his information and social media and resources for if you think you're in an abusive or bad state of relationships with.
Nicely put.
Yeah. I don't know what, because even people your own age can abuse you. So it's not
yeah.
always like an elder or a whatever. So yeah, anybody out there that is suffering and thinks this is just happening to me or in silence and they don't know who to turn to, we'll put that information at the end for you because, this really shouldn't happen. We're going to stop it right now.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
All it takes is one person to lift up their voice.
Right.
That sets out that ripple effect.
Right.
And you're doing that. Thank you so much for this.
Oh.
And I just want to thank you for all what you're doing and all the podcasts that you've put out there because you're changing the world.
Oh.
And I love watching them, and I love the relationship you create with your guests.
Oh, thank you.
And you just open this safe space that people want to share.
I am awesome.
You are awesome.
And with that, we're going to stop. Thank you, John-michaellander.
Thank you.
Thanks again. Bye-bye.